Hello and welcome to News on the Hour. In the next 1 hour, we'll get you all the latest news and updates. PM to launch Indian Space Association. US Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Michael M. Gilday will arrive in India. And in sports, Chennai Super Kings has entered the final for the 9th time. All of that and much more. Different correspondents will also be joining us with all the latest news and updates. Let's start with our top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to launch Indian Space Association today via video conferencing. Prime Minister will also interact with representatives of the space industry on the landmark occasion. The 13th India-China Corps Commander level meeting inconclusive as China disagrees to Indian suggestions to resolve the remaining areas. UP police to seek custody of Lakhimpur Kheri case accused Ashish Mishra today. Mishra was sent on judicial custody after 12-hour-long questioning on Saturday. NIA conducts searches in multiple locations in Jammu and Kashmir and arrests 3 ISIS operatives. In ISIS Voice of Hind case, agency also seizes a number of incriminating documents and digital devices. NIA also arrests 2 operatives of the Resistance Front in connection with the Bhattindi IED recovery case. Encounters in progress in Anantnag and Bandipora districts of Jammu and Kashmir. 1 each terrorist gunned down at both locations. 1 police personnel injured in Anantnag. Chief of US Naval Operations Admiral Mike Gilday will arrive in India today on a 5-day visit. Admiral Gilday will meet Indian Navy Chief Admiral Karambir Singh and other senior leaders from the Indian Navy and government during his visit. In sports, Chennai defeat Delhi in first IPL playoff to reach the finals for the 9th time. Bangalore will take on Kolkata Knight Riders in the second playoff today. And France beat Spain to win maiden UEFA Nations League. Karim Benzema and Kylian Mbappe scores for the French after trailing for 1 goal in 64th minute. Right, and starting with our top story, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch Indian Space Association via video conferencing today. He will also interact with representatives of the space industry on this landmark occasion. The Indian Space Association is the premier industry association of space and satellite companies which aspires to be the collective voice of the Indian space industry. It will undertake policy advocacy and engage with all stakeholders in the Indian space domain, including the government and its agencies. Echoing the Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Indian Space Association will help in making India self-reliant, technologically advanced and a leading player in the space arena. Indian Space Association is represented by leading homegrown and global corporations with advanced capabilities in space and satellite technology. Right, to talk more on this, our correspondent Arun Sharma is joining us on the phone line. Arun, echoing the Prime Minister vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we were discussing in the morning also, it will help India in making self-reliant. Tell us more about Indian Space Organization. It is a grouping of space and satellite companies. What will be its primary role and how it will be different from ISRO?
Well, so when we talk about the space reforms, the Indian Space Association is going to play a major role as far as bringing in reforms in our country. Now, we know this fact that last year in 2020, government has, given permission or has opened doors of the private sectors in the in India's space missions. Earlier, only ISRO was making space vehicles, doing research and development, doing all sort of activities related to space exploration and, of course, the space journey of our country. But now the private sector will also collaborate in this journey of ISRO, and they'll be collaborating it together. So idea of Indian Space Association is to keep the voice of all the players, or private players primarily, who are into a space sector or the satellite sectors as of now. These includes big corporate players, startups in our country which are related to the space sector. Now, just like we have FICCI, CII, SOCHAM, PhD chambers, now these associations are voice of the corporate players of our country, or the business community of our country. In a similar fashion, we'll be having Indian Space Association, which will be having the voice of the space players and the satellite players of our country. Now, initially, the founding big corporate players includes Tata, Bharti Airtel for that matter, Antrix for that matter, MapMyIndia for that matter. That are already contributing in this sector as far as satellites are concerned, or of course the space is concerned. But now they'll be having proper voice in form of India's Space Association. And as far as policy-related matters are concerned, financing-related matters are concerned, reforms-related matters are concerned, all these will be put forward by these big corporate players or the association of this space. That will play an important role in bringing in reforms. Earlier, the government has opened doors of the private players to be partnering with the ISRO for these various space missions. Now, in other countries also, we have seen that how private players are contributing massively as far as the space journey is concerned. Yeah. 21st century will completely focus upon the fact that how can private players contribute as far as India's space exploration is concerned, or maybe space journey, space tourism, space travel is concerned. So in that context, India's Space Association will play a crucial role as a platform between government and of course the private player, as far as keeping the voices of the corporate players related to the space sector, satellite sector, related to finance, reforms, incentivizing, and various other issues related to the space sector. So yes, it's a reformist day as far as the space sector is concerned, and this will be a big milestone in that direction.
Okay, you're saying it's a platform between the government and the private players also, and it will undertake policy advocacy and engage with all the stakeholders in the Indian space domain, including the government and its agency. But again, Arun, you're saying ISRO will have a bigger role and ISPA will act as a platform, you're saying?
Oh, just to simplify this further, Abhishek, now in countries like USA, Japan, Korea for that matter, over here, the central agency of the government as far as space is concerned is not only contributing to the space missions over there. For example, Elon Musk in USA is a big private player which is contributing to the space mission in USA. Over there, the private players, the doors have been opened for the private players for conducting space missions, space journeys, space travel. So in a similar fashion, India is taking a bigger role in line with big developed countries, where private players are given this chance and opportunity to be partnering with ISRO. Yes, indeed. ISRO will be having a bigger role to play, a macro level role to play, because earlier ISRO was, developing all the space vehicles like PSLVs, GSLVs, Mark 3, Mark 2. So all these were the vehicles that were designed by ISRO. ISRO was responsible for all the research and development in our country. ISRO was conducting all the innovations as far as the satellites are concerned. But now, ISRO will be having a bigger role in research and development. As far as launching vehicles are concerned, innovations related to satellites are concerned, private players will be having more say. So ISRO will, in a way, will play as a role of a launching pad for these big private players and the startups in our country, which are already doing a lot of innovations in the space sector, in the satellite sector. For example, MapMyIndia. This is way more, efficient ecosystem in our country, and this is giving a tough competition to Google Maps. Now, this is the Atmanirbhar story of India when we talk about the MapMyIndia. So, MapMyIndia company is also part of this India's Space Association. So, in a similar fashion, various applications, various companies will give a major boost to the Atmanirbhar Bharat in the space sector. And of course, ISRO will do hand-holding of this private sector, because ISRO has a lot of experiences as far as doing various missions like Chandrayaan and also working on missions like Gaganyaan. So in that context, ISRO will do hand-holding. It will share its experiences, best practices that ISRO is following, and the private sector with its reformist approach, innovative ideas, new ideas, young ideas primarily, will contribute with the Indian Space Research Organization or the ISRO, and of course the Indian Space Association will play an important role in keeping the voices of such startups young talents, innovators in the space sector in front of the government via Indian Space Association. And that's the reason why Indian Space Association that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to kickstart today is going to play a very crucial role in India's space journey in this 21st century or in this new decade.
Indeed, it will play a very, very crucial role, and PM will launch Indian Space Association via video conferencing today at 11 a.m. and he'll also interact with the representatives of the space industry on this occasion. Thank you, Arun. Thank you for giving us your vital inputs. Moving on to our next story, no resolution was achieved in the 13th round of military talks between India and China, as the neighbor was not agreeable and also could not provide any forward-looking proposals, but talks will continue. And during the meeting, discussions between the two sides focused on resolution of the remaining issues along the LAC in eastern Ladakh. The Indian side pointed out that the situation along the LAC had been caused by unilateral attempts of Chinese side to alter the status quo, and in violation of the bilateral agreements, it was therefore necessary that the Chinese side take appropriate steps in the remaining areas so as to restore peace and tranquility along the LAC in the western sector. This would also be in accord with the guidance provided by the two foreign ministers in their recent meeting in Dushanbe, where they had agreed that the two sides should resolve the remaining issues at the earliest. The Indian side emphasized such resolution of the remaining areas would facilitate progress in the bilateral relations. And during the meeting, the Indian side therefore made constructive suggestions for resolving the remaining areas, but the Chinese side was not agreeable and also could not provide any forward-looking proposals. The meeting thus did not result in resolution of the remaining areas. The two sides have agreed to maintain communications and also to maintain stability on the ground. It is our expectation that the Chinese side will take into account the overall perspective of bilateral relations and will work towards early resolution of the remaining issues while fully abiding by bilateral agreements and protocols. Well, shifting focus now, US Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Michael M. Gilday will arrive in India today on a 5-day visit. In a tweet, he informed that he will be meeting Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Karambir Singh and as well as other senior leaders from the Indian Navy and the government. He called India one of the US's closest strategic partners, saying that US-India relationship is a stronghold of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The visit, which is being seen as a great opportunity, will allow Admiral Gilday to reaffirm the growing level of naval cooperation between the two countries. My colleague Nandita is joining us live. She has more information on this. And Nandita, US Chief of Naval Operations Michael M. Gilday, Admiral, is scheduled to travel to India for a 5-day visit. Tell us about his program, his schedule, and he'll also meet Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Karambir Singh as well as other senior leaders from the Indian Navy and the government.
Yes, good morning, Abhishek. Admiral Mike Gilday's visit comes within months of two very significant developments. First, just last month in September in Washington, our Prime Minister participated in the first physical meeting of the Quad leaders with the US President, the Australian Prime Minister and the Japanese Prime Minister. The Quad, of course, is a partnership which is for a free and open Indo-Pacific. Although it does not say it does not mention China, it is clearly meant to contain China's aggressive moves and belligerence in the South China Seas as well as in the East China Seas. Secondly, in the last week of August, the Pacific Fleet Commander of the US Navy, Admiral Aquilino, he had come and had extensive talks with the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, and of course our own Navy Chief, Admiral Karambir Singh. And in the same month, in the beginning of August, the US Army Chief also had come. Admiral Gilday has made it clear, just like several reiterations from the US State Department and the US Pentagon and our own Ministry of Defence, that US considers India a pivot or a pillar of its Indo-Pacific strategy. President Barack Obama had announced that they will be making a pivot to Indo-Pacific to contain, that was to contain China, and India is strong pillar of that. Admiral Aquilino's visit comes at a time when the Malabar, the second phase of the Malabar exercises is underway, and that is underway in the Bay of Bengal. So you can see that the Malabar exercises also feature the Quad navies, which means the Japanese Navy, the Australian Navy, the Indian Navy, and the US Navy. The Navy Chief will probably witness these exercises firsthand, and of course, apart from holding talks with our Navy Chief on bilateral cooperation, defense exchanges, as well as interoperability. The Malabar exercises, just like the Quad, is a coming together of the navies for a free, open Indo-Pacific, which means freedom of navigation under a rule-based order in the South China Seas and East China Seas, where 2/3 of the maritime trade of the world passes. So, extremely significant visit, Abhishek. Just after 15 days after the Prime Minister held his Quad meeting with the other leaders of Quad, and it will be taking forward, of course, the cooperation that was agreed upon, and will be thrashing out the minutiae.
Right, very significant meeting, Nandita, you're saying, and we need to understand this. And United States designated India as a major defense partner in 2016. Also, Nandita, this visit will underscore the growing strength of US and India defense partnership, like you said also. And Admiral Gilday is visiting India, you think, to reaffirm the growing level of naval cooperation between the two nations?
Yes, when you mention naval cooperation, Abhishek, what is significant is in what that encompasses. Naval cooperation is the DTTI, or Defense Trade and Technology Initiative, and 3 working groups which are meeting, and one of those working groups is actually involved in co-designing and developing a aircraft carrier technology. So that is one thing. Another is we are in the advanced stage of purchasing multi-role helicopters, which are multi-role helicopters, of course, can be used for search and rescue, but they are primarily anti-submarine helicopters, and those helicopters are in an advanced stage. The US Senate has given its approval or its nod to that deal. Apart from that, we are the bilateral defense relationship, or the ties that between India and US go back a long way. In fact, this Malabar exercises, which are starting from tomorrow, that is the 12th of October in the Bay of Bengal, the second phase of Malabar 2021, is already is the 25th edition. They started in 1992, so this relationship is very, very old, but in the past 10 to 12 years, I would say that this relationship or these exercises and the bilateral, these exercises have grown in complexity, scope. The exercises will all include anti-submarine exercises, anti-air firings. So all the navies will, Japan, Australia, US and Indian navies are engaged in very, very complex maneuvers in the high seas in Bay of Bengal. When you mention defense cooperation, apart from Navy, we are also exercising with their army, where there is an exercise called Yuddhabhyas, which is again a biennial exercise. Also, we are exercising in the Rim of Pacific, exercises which are hosted by the US Navy, always in the seas of Hawaii. So the partnership is very, very comprehensive and not just limited to Navy and not just a buyer-seller relationship. Abhishek?
Absolutely. Very, very significant meet of US Chief of Naval Operations Michael M. Gilday, Admiral, is scheduled to travel to India on a 5-day visit. Thank you, Nandita, for giving us your precious time. Well, let's have a look at the COVID updates now. India continues to battle COVID-19, and with timely tracking, tracing and testing, the country's recovery rate now has reached at 98%, which is highest since March 2020. India's active case load is lowest in 209 days and currently stands at 2,27,347. Active cases account for less than 1% of total cases. It is lowest since March 2020 and is presently at 0.67%. India reported 18,132 new cases on Sunday, which is lowest in 215 days. 21,563 patients have recovered from the coronavirus on Sunday, which has increased the country's total recoveries to 3,32,93,478. Weekly positivity rate remains below 3% for the last 108 days and is now at 1.53%. Daily positivity rate is below 3% for the last 42 days and is at 1.75%. Testing capacity in the country has been ramped up. 10,35,797 samples were tested yesterday. Total 58,36,31,490 samples have been tested so far across the country. In a significant achievement, India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 95 crore mark. Cumulatively, 95.19 crore beneficiaries have been vaccinated so far. More than 46.57 lakh vaccine doses have been administered on Saturday. Well, moving on to our next story now. The National Investigation Agency on Sunday carried out searches at several locations in Jammu and Kashmir in connection with two cases, the ISIS Voice of Hind case and the Bhattindi ID recovery case. The anti-terror agency carried out simultaneous searches in various districts in the Union Territory with the assistance of the Central Reserve Police Force and Jammu and Kashmir Police. In connection with the ISIS Voice of Hind case, NIA had received information that ISIS terrorists operating from various conflict zones along with ISIS carriers in India by assuming pseudo-online identities have created a network wherein ISIS-related propaganda material is disseminated for radicalizing and recruiting members into ISIS fold. During the raids at 8 locations, 3 ISIS operatives were arrested while 4 accused persons were arrested earlier. The statement said searches in the case led to recovery and seizure of a number of incriminating documents and digital devices. Investigation in the case continues. And raids were also conducted in connection with the Bhattindi ID recovery case at 7 locations, including Kulgam, Srinagar and Baramulla districts. During the raids, 2 operatives of the Resistance Front or TRF were arrested for their involvement in the conspiracy. These 2 TRF operatives are Tawseef Ahmed Wani and Faiz Ahmed Khan. Earlier, 3 Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists were arrested in this case. During the searches, which were conducted with the assistance of CRPF and J&K police, many digital devices and other incriminating materials have been recovered. Investigation has revealed that Pakistan-based handlers of proscribed terror outfit LET and their associates based in J&K planned that responsibility for the terrorist acts so committed would be taken by the pseudo-acronym TRF so as to maintain plausible deniability and evade law enforcement agencies. Further investigation in the case continues. Meanwhile, police and security forces are carrying out 2 separate encounters in Anantnag and Bandipora districts of Jammu and Kashmir. In Anantnag, 1 unidentified terrorist has been gunned down at Khagun in Verinag area. Also, 1 policeman was injured too. Police and security forces are on the job. Operation is still underway and will keep you updated in our subsequent bulletins. While in Bandipora, 1 terrorist was gunned down at Gunjahangir in Hajin area. The slain terrorist has been identified as Imtiaz Ahmad Dar, affiliated with proscribed terror outfit Lashkar-e-Toiba. He was involved in recent civilian killing at Shagun in Bandipora district. Further search operation is underway. No visa would be required for Maldivians travelling to India from October 15th as the 2 countries have decided to restore the 2018 bilateral visa-free agreement. The agreement was temporarily suspended amid the COVID-19 triggered border closure. Taking to Twitter on Sunday, Foreign Minister of Maldives Abdullah Shahid thanked Prime Minister Modi and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar for the favourable consideration of the request. He also informed that from mid-October, the Maldivian nationals will not require visas for tourist, medical and business purposes. With this move, Maldives will be the first beneficiary of visa-free travel since COVID restrictions were imposed in March 2020. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, all visas granted to foreigners were suspended last year. Various other restrictions were also imposed on international travel by the central government to curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is on a 4-day visit to Kyrgyz Republic, Kazakhstan and Armenia. He is in Kyrgyz Republic today, during which he will call on the President of Kyrgyz Republic and hold a bilateral meet with the Foreign Minister of Kyrgyzstan. Some agreements or MOUs are also expected to be signed during the visit. This will be Dr. S. Jaishankar's first visit to the country as External Affairs Minister. And as part of Union Government's public outreach program in J&K, Union Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting and Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Dr. L. Murugan, visited trout fish farming project Kokarnag on Sunday. Our correspondent Rama Tyagi spoke to the minister about the visit.
Extensive tour of Dr. L. Murugan over here in Kokarnag. Let's talk to him about this tour, his experiences. Sir, what is your experience over here?
It is an integrated farm set up by the Fisheries Department. So they are also now doing under Prime Minister Matsya Sampada Yojana. They are also giving these seeds, brooding, hatcheries also, feed mill also. They are having a separate feed mill also. So all integrated part of this mill, this center is there. So like this center is one place they may get all the services.
Many people who are involved in this business, they met you this time and they are saying that this is the first time in the history that any minister came here and he is talking to them directly. So what are their expectations and what is your overview on those expectations?
The people are happy to see the ministers here and they are sharing them experience and they want to be come up for in this sector and they are with the nation.
What is government's plan to boost their confidence?
See, already we are see this outreach program. Not only myself, all ministers, all they are coming. They are meeting local. I also met local people. They are all very happy to as a patriotism, and they are very happily participating in these programs. Even I call some of youngsters, and they are happily to come for me, and they are sharing them ideas and they are sharing them experiences. So it is a very good outreach. This outreach is very useful to them.
So Dr. L. Murugan is saying that government is doing everything to boost the confidence of the people over here. With camera person Sandeep Murli, Rama Tyagi, TT News, Kokarnag.
PM Gati Shakti, the mega initiative announced by PM Modi on Independence Day this year, is to be launched in a few days. Union Minister for Women and Child Welfare Smriti Irani tweeted about how the platform to synergize and expedite key projects is all set to be launched next week.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 15th of August this year unveiled the plan to launch PM Gati Shakti Master Plan, a 100 lakh crore rupees project for developing holistic infrastructure. In his speech from the ramparts of the Red Fort, PM Modi pegged the project as a source of employment opportunities for the youth in future and an integrated pathway to our economy. Referring to the master plan, Union Minister for Women and Child Welfare Smriti Irani tweeted, PM Gati Shakti, bringing together 16 ministries, 7 core infrastructure sectors on one platform, will synergize and expedite key projects. Mega plan announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji on Independence Day will be launched this week. In his speech on our 75th Independence Day on the 15th of August this year, the Prime Minister had said that the National Master Plan of Gati Shakti will be a huge scheme, fulfilling the dreams of crores of countrymen.
भारत को आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के साथ ही इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर निर्माण में होलिस्टिक अप्रोच, इंटीग्रेटेड अप्रोच अपनाने की बहुत जरूरत है। भारत आने वाले कुछ ही समय में प्रधानमंत्री गति शक्ति का नेशनल मास्टर प्लान, उसको देश के सामने करोड़ों देशवासियों को सपना करने वाली एक बहुत बड़ी योजना लेकर के हम आपके सामने आने वाले हैं, उसको लॉन्च करने वाले हैं।
The scheme of more than 100 lakh crore rupees will result in new employment opportunities for lakhs of youth. Gati Shakti will be a national infrastructure master plan for our country, laying the foundation of holistic infrastructure, leading to an integrated and holistic pathway for our economy. Gati Shakti will also go a long way towards making our local manufacturers globally competitive, and this will also develop new possibilities for the creation of future economic zones. In this decade, the power of speed will form the basis of India's transformation, said Prime Minister Modi. The government's ambitious 100 lakh crore rupees Gati Shakti Master Plan, which will offer multimodal connectivity to more than 1,200 industrial clusters, including 2 defense corridors across the country, is aimed at reducing logistic costs and providing better connectivity. It includes projects under existing flagship schemes of different ministries, as also the vision of a transformed India, where the productivity of industry will also surely increase by leaps and bounds. Bureau Report, DD India.
And now in the saga of freedom, our mission to honor those who gave away their lives to the building of this nation, our freedom fighters and our heroes. In today's episode, we will take a look at the life of revolutionary and crusader Jayaprakash Narayan. He was the man who led the Quit India movement in 1942 when all other senior leaders were arrested. We also remember freedom fighter and captain in the Indian National Army Abbas Ali, who left us on this day in 2014. Let's know more about such towering personalities.
In today's episode, we celebrate the life and struggle of freedom fighter and towering political leader Lok Nayak Jayaprakash Narayan, who was born on this day, 11th of October in 1902.
Popularly referred to as JP, he accepted the way of non-violence for social reconstruction such as Bhudan and Gramdan, and used non-violent revolution during emergency period of 1975 to 1977 to bring about Sampoorn Kranti, that is, total revolution to save democratic values.
वोट ले ले और उसको हम कह दें कि बस ये जनता की हुकूमत बन गई, लोगों की आजादी न हो, इसको सिविल लिबर्टीज कहते हैं। शहरी आजादियां वो लोगों की न हो तो चाहे बेसिक डेमोक्रेसी कह लीजिए, पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी कह लीजिए, सोशल डेमोक्रेसी कह लीजिए, पीपुल्स डेमोक्रेसी, वो सब नाम है।
During the freedom movement, Jayaprakash Narayan did not strongly believe in the philosophy of non-violence. He accepted the violent way of revolution for freedom movement and established Azad Dasta, which was a group of revolutionaries for freedom movement.
He believed that the discussion on violence and non-violence is meaningless, and both are good in the reference of freedom movement. However, later he became an ardent Gandhian and devoted his life to non-violent revolution for social reconstruction, which is called Sarvodaya movement. The works of Jayaprakash Narayan, which were based on Gandhian philosophy, prove that Gandhian philosophy remains relevant in the present context. We salute JP's undying spirit of love and dedication for the nation.
We also remember freedom fighter and captain in the Indian National Army Abbas Ali, who left us on 11th October 2014. Abbas Ali was born in Khurja, Bulandshahr district of Uttar Pradesh on 3rd of January 1920.
He belonged to a family of freedom fighters, and one of his grandfathers, Rustam Ali Khan, was hanged in Bulandshahr district in Uttar Pradesh after the First War of Indian Independence in 1857.
When Shahid-e-Azam Bhagat Singh was hanged on 23rd March 1931, Abbas Ali was just 11-year-old, but he participated in a protest march. He joined Naujawan Bharat Sabha, the organization founded by Bhagat and his colleagues, and later, while studying at Aligarh Muslim University, he became member of the All India Students' Federation. and joined the British Indian Army in 1939 with the motive of revolt.
In 1945, when Subhash Chandra Bose called for revolt, he left the British Army and joined the Azad Hind Fauj.
Later, he fought with the British Army in Arakan, now Rakhine state of Myanmar, but when the Japanese surrendered before the Allied forces, Abbas Ali was also arrested along with 60,000 fellow soldiers of INA. He was put in Multan fort along with 3 of his colleagues, tried, court-martialed and awarded the death sentence in 1946. However, when India gained independence in 1947, he was released and became politically active.
Here is an excerpt of Captain Abbas Ali remembering the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose during INA and British Army's fight in Arakan from an archived interview.
नेताजी की ये बात कि वो मुल्क के ऊपर सब कुछ कुर्बान बराबर करने वाले आदमी जब भी आजादी हिंद फौज लड़ाई लड़ी हम अराकान में लड़े जहाँ हमने अंग्रेजों के एक डिवीजन को एनसर्कुलर करके 6 महीने तक हवाई जहाज से राशन अंग्रेज ने डाला.
Captain Abbas Ali died 7 years ago, but his spirit to serve the motherland will continue to inspire the future generations. We salute his love for the nation.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a tweet remembered Nanaji Deshmukh on his birth anniversary. In a tweet, PM said, and I quote, "Pranams to the great visionary Bharat Ratna Nanaji Deshmukh on his Jayanti. He dedicated himself towards the development of our villages and empowering the industrious farmers." Taliban officials met with the Qatari and US officials in Doha on Saturday and Sunday. An interagency delegation travelled to Doha, Qatar to meet with senior Taliban representatives in the first face-to-face senior level meeting since Washington pulled its troops from Afghanistan. The US delegation reiterating that the Taliban will be judged on its action, not only its words. The delegation talks focused on security, terrorism concerns and safe passage for US citizens, other foreign nationals. Meanwhile, Acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi asked the US to lift a ban on Afghan central bank reserves. Muttaqi also said Washington would offer Afghans coronavirus vaccines. Washington and other Western countries are grappling with difficult choices as a severe humanitarian crisis looms large over Afghanistan. They are trying to formulate how to engage with the Taliban without granting it the legitimacy it seeks while ensuring humanitarian aid flows into the country. The departure of US-led forces and many international donors robbed the country of grants that finance 75% of public spending, according to the World Bank. Speaking after the talks, Acting Foreign Minister of Afghanistan said the two sides had agreed to uphold the terms of Doha Agreement signed in 2020. The deal includes broad obligations on the Taliban to take steps to prevent groups such as Al-Qaeda from threatening the US security and its allies. And after a complete day-long blackout on Saturday, power supplies were partially restored in Lebanon after the army supplied fuel to country's 2 major power stations that ran out of fuel stocks. On Sunday, the Lebanese army fronted 6,000 kiloliters of gas oil from its own fuel reserves to resume operations on the plants for the next 3 days. The fuel were distributed equally between the 2 power stations. The country's energy minister said the central bank had approved $100 million in credit to issue fuel import tenders for electricity generation. Notably, Lebanon is battling economic turmoil, and in recent months, the cash-strapped state is battling to import required fuel oil for electricity production. Iraq's parliamentary election recorded one of the smallest turnouts on Sunday. Many of the electorates have lost trust in political leaders and the democratic system brought in by the 2003 US-led invasion. As per Electoral Commission counts, polling on Sunday appeared to see the lowest turnout in any election since 2003. Soon after the voting ended, officials printed records and opened the ballot box to count ballots. Initial results are expected today. The election is being held several months early under a new law designed to help independent candidates. The government called the vote early in response to anti-establishment protests in 2019 that toppled the previous administration. At least 167 parties and more than 3,200 candidates were competing for Parliament's 329 seats. Outgoing German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who is on a farewell visit to Israel, received an honorary doctorate from the Technion, Israel's Institute of Technology. Israel President Isaac Herzog, who honored Merkel, called her a great friend of the Jewish people. She also met with a group of Israeli high-tech and business entrepreneurs, accompanied by Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Merkel also visited Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial Museum. Russia and the United States have lifted targeted sanctions to allow U.S. Under Secretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland to visit Moscow this week for meetings with Russian officials. Nuland was on the sanctions list that prohibits individuals from entering the country, but has since been removed after the U.S. ended a similar restriction that was barring a Russian citizen from entering the country. Nuland is expected in Moscow from October 11th to 13th. The visit comes at a time when political ties between the countries are badly strained. She will be meeting senior officials to discuss bilateral, regional and global issues. Relations between Moscow and Washington sank to post-Cold War lows in 2014 after Russia's annexation of Crimea from Ukraine. They remain strained over a range of other issues. Around 25,000 people, including representatives of Greenpeace, Oxfam and trade unions, took to the streets of the Belgian capital Brussels to call for climate action ahead of the UN Climate Change Conference. The protesters congregated in the city centre and marched towards the European institutions. Protesters said they wish political leaders acted on climate with the same urgency they handled the COVID-19 pandemic. World leaders are due to meet at the COP26 Global Climate Conference in Glasgow from October 31st to November 12th to try to flesh out commitments made in Paris in 2015 aimed at stabilizing the planet's climate and to speed up action to limit climate change. The Spanish Coast Guard boat transported 36 migrants intercepted in the Atlantic Ocean to the island of Gran Canaria. Migrants, including women and children, were rescued 6 miles off Canary Islands and transported in Arguineguin port. Spain's Canary Islands have experienced in seaborne migration that has seen thousands make the dangerous crossing from Africa to the Atlantic archipelago. Venezuela will vote for regional elections planned for 21st November. In the run-up to the poll, the National Electoral Council in the country organized an election drill on Sunday, which included automated systems to allow voters to familiarize themselves with the tools used in the polls. 446 polling stations took part in the drill. The November regional vote includes elections for 335 municipal governments. A U.S. Navy nuclear engineer and his wife have been charged with selling secret information about nuclear submarines to an undercover FBI agent who posed as an operative for a foreign country. The Justice Department said that the couple was arrested in West Virginia and charged with violating the Atomic Energy Act. They are scheduled to appear in a West Virginia federal court tomorrow. The Justice Department said the U.S. Navy nuclear engineer with top-secret security clearance sent a package of restricted data to an unidentified country in 2020 and later began selling secrets for tens of thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency to an undercover FBI agent posing as a foreign official. He received separate cryptocurrency payments totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now let's take a look at COVID-19 numbers from across the globe. More than 23 crore 86 lakh people from across the world have so far been infected by the COVID-19, while over 21 crore 56 lakh patients have recovered from the virus. The coronavirus has claimed lives of more than 48 lakh 66,000 people worldwide. The United States remains the worst affected nation by the COVID-19. Over 4 crore 52 lakh people in the country have been infected by the COVID-19, while more than 7 lakh 33,000 people have died due to virus. Well, Italy now, 12 people, including the leaders of the extreme right-wing party, have been arrested by police after clashes in Rome a day earlier over a government drive to make the COVID-19 Green Pass mandatory for all workers. Thousands of people took to the streets of all the Italian capital on Saturday to oppose the move. Some tried to break past police in riot gear, guarding access to the Prime Minister's office, while a separate group broke into the headquarters of Italy's main CGIL trade union and turned its offices upside down. The Italy's PM introduced the pass that mentions that holder has either received at least one vaccine dose, has tested negative or has recently recovered from the virus. Over 80% of all Italians over the age of 12 have been fully vaccinated as of October 10th. And now some good news in the battle against COVID-19 pandemic coming from Vietnam. Earlier, several thousand patients were being treated in COVID-19 field hospitals, but now the number of patients in Ho Chi Minh City is only about one-third. This progress shows that efforts of the city's health sector in the pandemic fight have paid off. The number of patients discharged from the hospital is increasing. The patients are very happy. From 3,000 patients, there are now only about 1,000 left in the hospital. The newly established intensive care unit has 200 beds, but only 30% of its capacity is being used. This is not only a positive sign at this field hospital, but also the overall situation at other hospitals in Ho Chi Minh City. The patient mortality rate is 28 in 10,000, which is 0.28%. This result shows the great effort from staff at the field hospital as well as the timely investment and attention of the HCMC City Department of Health and Thu Duc City support with facilities, medical equipment and supplies, drugs and specialized equipment. The empty hallways are the clearest evidence of how the past 2 months have changed. Well, moving on to our next story now. Fiji will reopen its border to its travel partner countries from the 11th of next month. This has been confirmed by Fiji Prime Minister Marama, who says there will be no traditional quarantine requirement. However, Fiji PM says a different set of protocols have been put together for tourists, residents and for those visiting friends as well as relatives. He adds these tourists will need to show proof of vaccination and test negative to the virus 72 hours before their departure. Upon their arrival to Fiji, they will head straight to the hotel. The Fijian Prime Minister highlighted these visitors will spend the first 2 days in Fiji on their hotel premises. However, they won't be locked inside the room. A rapid diagnostic test will be taken 40 hours after their arrival to grant them free movement in safe travel areas. He says the government is currently drawing up borders of travel safe areas. Fiji PM Baini Marama is urging hotel and tour operators to get a Care Fiji commitment certified by a COVID-19 Risk Management Task Force. He adds Fiji will strictly enforce the no jab, no fly policy. Well, on to some sports news now. Chennai Super Kings entered the Indian Premier League final after beating Delhi Capitals by 4 wickets in the first qualifier on Sunday. CSK reached the target of 173 with 2 balls to spare, with captain MS Dhoni remaining not out on 18 of just 6 deliveries. Ruturaj Gaikwad top scored with a 50-ball 70, while Robin Uthappa contributed a 44-ball 63. For Delhi Capitals, Tom Curran took 3 wickets, while Andrik Nokia and Avesh Khan got 1 each. Earlier, Prithvi Shaw top scored for Delhi Capitals with 34-ball 60, while captain Rishabh Pant and Shimron Hetmeyer contributed 51 not out and 37 respectively after Delhi Capitals scored 172 for 5 after being invited to bat. Josh Hazlewood was the pick of the CSK bowlers with figures of 2 for 29, while Ravindra Jadeja, Dwayne Bravo and Moeen Ali took a wicket each. This is the 9th time that CSK have an entered IPL final, and Ruturaj Gaikwad walked away with the Man of the Match award. Talking about today's IPL match now, it will be a test of Virat Kohli's tactical acumen against the high-school demeanour of Morgan when perennial underachievers Royal Challengers Bangalore clashed with former champions Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL eliminator at Sharjah today. Kohli, who has decided to step down from captaincy from this edition, has been led RCB to the finals in 2016, besides reaching the IPL playoffs twice in 2015 and 20, and he would like to end things on a high in his last hurrah as captain. For Morgan, it is about regaining the lost glory for KKR, a team which achieved great success under Gautam Gambhir, who had led them to 2 IPL titles in space of 3 years in 2012 and 2014. Football now. Kylian Mbappe fired a contentious winner as France came from behind to beat Spain 2-1 and become the second team to win the Nations League. Mbappe was adjudged to be onside when he slid the ball under Unai Simon. Spain had taken the lead through Mikel in the second half, but Karim Benzema's stunning equalizer leveled things at Milan San Siro. French keeper Lloris produced 2 late saves to ensure victory for the world champions. Goals from Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema assured Les Bleus secured a successful comeback, winning the maiden Nations League title for France. Talismanic captain Sunil Chhetri equalled the legendary Pele with his 77th international goal as his 83rd minute strike helped India beat Nepal 1-0 and save his side from the verge of elimination in the SAF Championships on Sunday. 7-time champions India are now at 3rd spot with 5 points from 3 matches in the 5-team table, below Maldives and Nepal, who have 6 points from 3 matches respectively. India will still need to win their final round robin league match on Wednesday against host Maldives if they have to make it to the 16th October final. The 37-year-old Chhetri, playing in his 123rd match for India, struck a late goal to place himself on even keel with Brazilian great. He is now on joint 3rd with UAE's Ali Mabhout in the list of highest scorers among active footballers, behind Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. The margin narrowed by those late blows, but Australia win by 14 runs to take the T20I series 2-0 and the multi-format series won 11-5. Make no mistake though, the home side have been pushed hard over the last 3 weeks. That overall margin a bit harsh on India. A few moments here and there, a couple of close calls, a little lack of experience and some poor fielding made the difference. It's worth saying too though that the Australia have won with Megan Schutt and Jess Jonasson plus Rachel Haynes since the test match. Animal lovers in Mexico had their share of a visual treat at Guadalajara Zoo, where 4 rare Bengal tiger cubs enthralled them as the carnivores playfully explored their enclosure. The 3-month-old tigers became celebrities in no time at the zoo ever since their public debut in late September. The cubs have been sharing their enclosure with their mother since their birth. And according to the World Wildlife Fund, Bengal tigers are native to Asia, with the majority of 2,200 wild animals left found in India. Conservation efforts by India have helped stabilize the species. We end the bulletin with these visuals.
calmness of the serene sky above us gets slightly interrupted by our movement on the ground. As we moved on, the narrow route on both sides gave way to lush greenery. In terms of its geographical specifications, the Orang National Park, encompassing an area of 78.81 square kilometers, lies on the north bank of the Brahmaputra, delimited between 26.483 degrees north, 92.266 degrees east, and 26.666 degrees north and 92.45 degrees east, within the districts of Darang and Sonitpur. Pakhnoi River, Belsiri River and Dhanshiri River border the park and join the Brahmaputra River. During the monsoon, the park becomes a veritable floodplain with many streams overlapping each other. These floodplains constitute 12 wetlands in the park, apart from the 26 man-made water bodies. The park is thus formed of alluvial floodplains of the many rivers and is an integral part of the Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspot. The total area of the park has been categorized into Eastern Himalayan moist deciduous forest of about 15.85 square kilometers, Eastern seasonal swamp forest of about 3.28 square kilometers, Eastern wet alluvial grassland of about 8.33 square kilometers, savanna grassland of about 18.17 square kilometers, degraded grassland of about 10.36 square kilometers, water body of about 6.13 square kilometers, moist sandy area of about 2.66 square kilometers, and dry sandy area of about 4.02 square kilometers. It has a fairly flat terrain tending north to south with a gentle slope. The elevation in the park varies from 45 meters or 148 feet to 70 meters or 230 feet. It is bounded on the south and east by islands and spill channels of the river. But the flat alluvial land is seen distinctly as two terraces. The lower terrace is of recent origin on the bank of the Brahmaputra River, and the other is the upper terrace to the north, separated by high bank running through the park. The whole park is encircled by inhabited villages, thus subjecting it to biotic pressure.
One thing like I have been managing this here for the past 1.5 years, and my experience says that Orang National Park is a floodplain of Brahmaputra River, and like any floodplain of Brahmaputra River, this is vulnerable to erosions and depositions, and but the legal boundary of Orang National Park is rigid and fixed on the map. So and Orang National Park is 79.28 square kilometer. Losing 10 square kilometer of land within this particular legal boundary is also an issue for us. So one thing which we think is like one major issue which we have to address for the future is we have to increase the legal boundary of the park into the riverine area of Brahmaputra, so that if there is a deposition, that particular land will become rich for wild animals to move on to. So currently there is not much land available for them to move on to if there is some kind of a loss of land within the legal boundary.
debate and they will say